Darryl to me was the epitome of a teammate, and that word's used pretty loosely, but that good teammate is probably the best title you could be given.
133 wins, 1,668 strikeouts, 3 All-Star selections, and a legendary no-hitter. Yet this scheduled starting pitcher never made it to the ballpark that Sunday. The night before he died, Darryl Kile told his brother he felt weak and his shoulder hurt. His teammates assumed he had overslept. The truth was already in his medical file. They just hadn't read it closely enough. This is his story. Born on December 2nd, 1968 in Garden Grove, California, Kile grew up near Angel Stadium. At Norco High School, his awkward mechanics and low velocity meant that scouts and college recruiters completely ignored him. Instead of giving up on his dream, Kile enrolled at Chaffey College. Between his freshman and sophomore years, a dramatic growth spurt stretched his height to 6 feet 5 inches, helping him gain 20 pounds. His fastball velocity instantly jumped by 13 miles per hour into the low 90s. The Houston Astros drafted Kile from Chaffey College in the 30th round of the 1987 draft as the 781st pick overall, signing him that same year as an organizational prospect. His transition from a project into an elite starter relied on a single devastating weapon: his signature 12-6 curveball. Developed in the minors with the Tucson Toros, Kile's curveball had a massive vertical break that left hitters frozen. This pitch became his ultimate weapon, turning him into a rotation anchor. He debuted on April 8, 1991 for the Astros, going 7-11 in his rookie season. In his first major league start on April 24, 1991, manager Art Howe lifted Kile after 6 no-hit innings to protect his young arm. Kile's true breakthrough came in 1993, when he went 15-8 with a 3.51 ERA and made his first All-Star team. On September 8, 1993, he threw a spectacular no-hitter against the New York Mets at the Astrodome, winning 7-1. In a rare historical quirk, the Mets managed to score an unearned run in the 4th inning without recording a single hit. Kile retired the first 10 Mets batters in order before walking Jeff McKnight. After Eddie Murray flied out, Kile threw a wild pitch during Joe Orsulak's at-bat that catcher Scott Service mistakenly thought hit the batter's foot. As McKnight advanced, Jeff Bagwell's throw to third sailed wide, allowing McKnight to run home. Kile then retired Orsulak to end the 4th inning and proceeded to retire the next 15 batters in a row, striking out Chico Walker on a sharp breaking ball to seal his masterpiece. The summer dominance also earned Kile the National League Pitcher of the Month award for June, when he posted a stellar 1.15 ERA across 5 appearances. Kile's peak in Houston came in 1997, when he went 19-7 with a career-best 2.57 ERA, completing 4 shutouts and throwing a career-high 255 2/3 innings. He made the All-Star team, finished 5th in Cy Young voting, and led the Astros to a division title. At 29 years old, he was a superstar. But while his career soared, a genetic threat was quietly building in the background. That same year, 1993, Kile's father died of a heart attack at age 44. Darryl was only 24 years old. Years later, his manager Tony La Russa would recall that Kile used to tell teammates he didn't think he'd live a long life. Nobody took it seriously. They should have. Darryl Kile's career took a drastic turn as he went from the best season of his career to a complete physical and statistical unraveling in just a year. Following his spectacular 1997 season, Kile signed a 3-year, $24 million contract with the Colorado Rockies, featuring a $5 million signing bonus and salaries rising to $7 million by 2000. Following Kile's signing, manager Don Baylor was ecstatic, expressing that it was the first time the Rockies had a real number 1 starter to lead their rotation. Baylor would manage Kile through his first season in Colorado before Jim Leyland took over the managerial duties for the 1999 season. But by signing with Colorado, Kile walked directly into Coors Field. the most hostile environment for pitchers in baseball history. This extreme change of scenery completely unraveled Kile's pitching mechanics. The answer lies in the physics of thin air. Located a mile above sea level, Denver's atmospheric pressure is significantly lower than at sea level. This thin air means there are fewer air molecules to create friction and resistance on a spinning baseball. For a pitcher who relied entirely on the Magnus effect to make his signature curveball break sharply downward, this environment was a disaster. Without air resistance, Kile's curveball lost its sharp break, flattening out in the strike zone where hitters easily hammered it. Hitters quickly realized they could lay off his curveball entirely, forcing Kile to rely on his fastball, which became highly predictable. His mechanics unraveled as he tried to force the break, leading to severe control issues. In 1998, Kile struggled, finishing with a 13-17 record and a highly elevated 5.20 ERA. Yet even during this painful stretch, his raw talent occasionally broke through. On August 20th, 1998, Kile set a Rockies franchise record by striking out 14 batters in a single game against the Montreal Expos. He earned the win in a 6-3 victory, pitching 7 dominant innings and allowing only unearned runs, before reliever Mike DeJean secured the save. This strikeout record would stand for 18 years. But despite that historic night, Kile still lost 2/3 of his starts that year. In 1999, the unraveling was complete. Kile suffered the worst season of his career, posting an 8-13 record with a staggering 6.61 ERA, surrendering 140 earned runs, and walking 109 batters over 190 innings. His combined record during his 2 seasons at the Rockies was 21-30 with a terrible 5.84 ERA. The Rockies management believed Kile was a spent force, desperate to get his contract off their books. On November 16, 1999, they traded Kile, Dave Veers, and Luther Hackman to the Cardinals in exchange for Jose Jimenez, Manny Ibar, Rick Crochet, and Brent Butler. The Rockies thought they were shedding a broken pitcher, but they were wrong. Kile was about to stage a monumental resurrection, even as a silent, deadly medical crisis began to take hold of his life. When Darryl Kile arrived in St. Louis for the 2000 season, he found the perfect environment to rebuild his career. Reunited with manager Tony La Russa and catcher Mike Matheny, Kile was back at sea level, where normal atmospheric pressure restored his signature curveball's knee-buckling vertical break. The impact was instantaneous. In 2000, Kile went 20-9 with a 3.19 ERA, becoming the first St. Louis pitcher to win 20 games since John Tudor and Joaquin Andujar in 1985. He threw 5 complete games, logged 232 1/3 innings, and struck out 192 batters while walking only 58. Kile made his 3rd All-Star team, finished 5th in Cy Young voting, and led the Cardinals to the NLCS. He was the team's opening day starter, delivering on every level. That success continued in 2001, posting a 16-11 record with a 3.09 ERA over 34 starts, leading the Cardinals back to the playoffs. He had returned to the elite tier of starters. But this success came at a hidden cost. Kile had played through a severe shoulder injury that required surgery immediately after the playoffs. He spent the offseason in rehabilitation to be ready for 2002. In 12 seasons, Kile had remarkably never gone on the disabled list, proving to be the ultimate warrior. In 2002, Kile started 5-4, with a respectable 3.72 ERA in 14 starts. His final career start was June 18, 2002, in an interleague game against the Anaheim Angels. Kile was brilliant, scattering 6 hit over 7 2/3 innings and allowing only 1 run in a 7-2 victory. The win put the Cardinals in first place. On the mound, Kile looked robust, healthy, and full of life. He had exactly 4 days to live. Kile was carrying a ticking time bomb inside his chest, and his medical records held the key. His father had died of a sudden heart attack in 1993 at age 44. The genetic risk factor was clearly documented in Kile's medical history. Coronary atherosclerosis can progress silently over decades without a single warning sign. Despite this risk, team doctors insisted Kile had no known health problems and was not on medication. His condition remained undetected, but the risk was fully documented. This is where a tragedy of bad luck turns into a disturbing case of systematic negligence. When top cardiologists reviewed Darryl's medical files after his passing, they reached a chilling conclusion. His condition was highly detectable, easily treatable, and given his documented family history, should have been aggressively screened. But baseball's standard spring training physical was a 10-minute formality. In 50% of men who die suddenly of coronary disease, their very first symptom is death itself. Darryl was already walking on a death-defying tightrope, completely blind to the threat. So, as we step into the final 48 hours of Darryl's life, keep this in mind. The real question we're about to answer isn't whether his death was preventable. It's whether baseball's multi-million-dollar system ever actually tried to save him. On Friday night, June 21st, 2002, the St. Louis Cardinals were in Chicago for a weekend series against their division rivals, the Chicago Cubs. Darryl Kile had dinner with his brother Daniel and friends, complaining of weakness and shoulder pain, symptoms his brother later described to the medical examiner. Everyone assumed Kile was experiencing typical fatigue from his ongoing shoulder rehabilitation. At around 10:30 p.m., Kile returned to his room at the Westin Hotel. That was the last time anyone spoke to him alive. On Saturday morning, June 22nd, the Cardinals were scheduled to play the Cubs in a day game at Wrigley Field, widely confirmed by sources to be scheduled for 12:20 p.m., though a conflicting historical record from Astros Daily suggested a planned 2:20 p.m. start. Pre-game warm-ups began, but Kile was nowhere to be found. For a veteran pitcher legendary for his discipline, this was an immediate cause for alarm. Team personnel grew deeply concerned and called the hotel, asking staff to check Kile's room. Hotel workers went to his 11th floor room, finding the safety latch engaged from the inside, forcing them to break open the door. Instead, they found Darryl Kile in his bed under the covers, having passed away in his sleep. There were no signs of foul play. The game's start was delayed as the Cardinals tried to contact Kile's wife, Flynn, to break the devastating news before it leaked. Once Flynn was reached, the game was canceled, but nearly 40,000 fans were sitting in the stands, completely unaware of the tragedy. To share the news with the crowd, a visibly emotional Joe Girardi, then catching for the Cubs, stepped out of the dugout and addressed the Wrigley Field fans while holding back tears. Girardi kept the on-field announcement brief.
I thank you for your patience. We regret to inform you, because of a tragedy in the Cardinal family, that the commissioner has canceled the game today. Thank you. Please be respectful. You will find out eventually what has happened. And I ask that you say a prayer for the St. Louis Cardinal family.
It was only on the national television broadcast that St. Louis broadcaster Joe Buck, son of recently passed Jack Buck, reported the heartbreaking details to the world, announcing that Flynn Kile had just been notified of her husband's passing. An autopsy conducted by Cook County Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Edmund Donahue confirmed Kile died of natural causes brought on by severe coronary atherosclerosis. His right coronary artery and left anterior descending artery were 80 to 90% blocked. His heart was nearly 25% larger than a normal heart, and a fresh blood clot had formed in one of his arteries, completely cutting off blood flow. Toxicology reports came back clean, ruling out any performance-enhancing drug or stimulant involvement. He was just 33 years old. Kile left behind his wife Flynn and 3 children, 5-year-old twins Cannon and Sierra, and a 10-month-old son, Riker. He was the first active Major League player to die during the regular season since Thurman Munson's plane crash in 1979. The tragedy was especially gut-wrenching for St. Louis, occurring just 4 days after the death of legendary broadcaster Jack Buck. The Cardinals wore a DK57 patch for the rest of the season, and Kile's jersey hung in the dugouts. True to his impact in Houston, the Astros have never reassigned Kile's number 57 to another player. Baseball's team physicians insisted his father's medical history didn't compel specialized screening. Independent cardiologists said it did. Kile passed every spring training physical he ever took. Every single one. The system wasn't designed to save him. It was designed to clear him. In 2003, the Darryl Kile Good Guy Award was established, presented annually by the Houston Astros and St. Louis Cardinals to players who best exemplify Kile's traits as a good teammate, great friend, fine father, and humble man. Jeff Bagwell was the first recipient for the Astros, and Mike Matheny was the first for the Cardinals. A permanent DK57 memorial remains in the Busch Stadium bullpen to this day, a symbol of a beloved leader who was taken far too soon. Darryl Kile told his teammates he didn't expect to live long. They laughed it off. His doctors cleared him. The league moved on. 33 years old, 3 kids, a fastball he never got to throw again, and a medical file that had the answer, if anyone had bothered to look. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next one. These stories deserve to be found.